Haymon who?
Mata Heyday.
Haymon Lata Heyday. Who is he?
Never paid taxes in 30 years. Fought the U.S. tax court and won.
See, I believe our rights come from God, not from government.
In this presentation, I will cover the topic of the Federal Reserve scam, a central bank of the United States that's privately owned, and its relationship to the federal income tax system. Why they were both came upon the American people at 1913. Is that coincidence or what? No, it was not coincidence. It was planned that way. So I got a short video followed by another one, which will become one, to show you guys about the scam, and we'll continue to answer your questions. I understand this whole issue of the Federal Reserve scam and income tax that are enslaving the American people. They're using us as slaves, and you can stop it. You can stop funding the criminals and crooks out there. Here we go. Ready?
Jekyll Island, November 1910. 7 bankers meeting in secret to create America's central bank. We just can't call it that. The 1907 panic nearly destroyed us. Banks failed, fortunes vanished. We want to control America's money supply, create booms, trigger busts, and profit from both. And how will we do that? We'll create money from nothing, loan it to the government, and charge interest. Legal counterfeiting, my friends. But there's a cost. Every dollar we print steals value from existing dollars. It's a hidden tax that flows directly to us. And it gets worse. If we ever get off the gold standard, governments can print money for wars. Endless wars become possible and profitable. Since Americans hate central banks, we'll call it the Federal Reserve. Sounds governmental, doesn't it? It's not. The president will appoint board members, but we'll pick who he appoints. We'll have 12 regional banks. Looks decentralized, democratic even, but New York banks control them all. That's us. You're probably wondering how we're going to get this through Congress. December 23rd, 1913. Most of Congress home for Christmas. Perfect timing for passing unpopular legislation. I'll publicly oppose our own bill in Congress. They'll pass it thinking they beat Wall Street. We'll fund university chairs, write the textbooks. They'll teach our system as economic science. Beautiful. Every American born after this will inherit debt on money we created from nothing. Generational servitude. The Federal Reserve. Not federal, no reserves. But everyone will think it's their government protecting them.
Good afternoon.
And here's the follow-up part, guys.
To make sure that we get paid the 6% interest that by law the U.S. government had to pay us on these fraudulently created loans, we pretended to pass the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution and made you believe that you have to file and pay income taxes, even though the U.S. Supreme Court has stated that the 16th Amendment did not give Congress new taxing powers to make you one of our slaves.
Thank you for being such good slaves of us and voluntarily paying us for over 100 years.
Please do not expose our scam. Do not go to freedomlawschool.org to stop this charade.
They had to have a consistent, reliable way of the federal government paying the interest on the counterfeit money that the Federal Reserve Bank and the big banks, the New York Federal Reserve, were going to lend to the federal government. And that was gold back then, gold coins, not just some paper money. It was actually real gold. So in order to do that, they had to make the American believe that they can pay and they should pay taxes directly to the federal government. See, because before back then, direct taxes in America had to be apportioned or divided up amongst the states. This state collects this much, the smaller states collect this much. Different states, but size, collect different amounts and give to the federal government. Although the federal government kind of bypassed that a little bit, but still had to go through that whole process, which was much more cumbersome. So in order to do that, they pretended that they changed the U.S. Constitution, which limited the federal government's power to tax American people like you in the 50 states directly, that they were freed of that. They said direct taxes now could be handled and collected by the federal government without being apportioned or divided up among the states. That's what basically the 16th Amendment of the Constitution says. It was never ratified, but it doesn't matter. What happened is that somebody named Bruce Shaper who got payments, dividends from the Union Pacific Railroad, which was created in Washington, D.C. to do an interstate commerce job of going through the states of the Union, which was basically a federally affected entity, challenged this whole thing in the Supreme Court and asked the wrong question and got the wrong answer, which worked for the bankers. He didn't ask that this money is federal money coming from the railroad, which are federally controlled, federally, under the power of the federal government. He asked the question whether this is a direct tax or indirect tax, and the Supreme Court said, well, if that's a question, the answer is it's a indirect tax, because direct taxation restriction about apportionment, it is still in the Constitution. It has not been repealed. So with that, guess what? They said the income taxes, constitutional, and you, Mr. and Mrs. America, have to pay it. But don't worry, the tax right now is on the very rich people. Very rich people. To pay even 1%, you have to make over $2 million in today's money for 1% tax rate. So that's how they got the camel's nose under the tent to start the process. So yes, you have been enslaved. You are paying taxes to these private banks, which basically are the Bank of America, Chase, Wells Fargo, Citi, and Goldman Sachs. They're the ones that, head of the beast, control the system out of New York. They're the ones that you're paying this tax to. Okay, that's how the system was set up. But you don't have to. First, you want to educate yourself about this whole fraud of the Federal Reserve, okay? And to do that, what you want to do is to go to watch a documentary, America, Freedom to Fascism, okay? So this is the one available on our RLC channel, also on YouTube and Rumble. Check out this great documentary about income tax and the Federal Reserve System. This is the book I read back in 1992 when I started, called The Secrets of the Federal Reserve by Eustace Mullins, okay? It's a great book. I think it's not that long. This video series, it's only 10 parts, called Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney. It's a great introduction to money and the Federal Reserve, how it works. It's the best explanation of the money system I've seen by anybody done in the video format. Although Mike King has a great thing on that also, which I'm going to help him put that online, called The Great Tomato Bubble. Okay, and then this is Bill Masters, Money Masters. Okay, it's a full documentary. Great job. This is very long. It's over 3 hours long, but it's really a good, detailed history of money. Goes out throughout the, even go back to, Roman times. Okay. And as far as the book, the complete book on this issue, the banking and money, Federal Reserve, is A Creature from Jekyll Island. He also goes about the history of money, what it is, and brings it up to the early 1990s. So now that you got the banking part homework you'll be doing, yes, Federal Reserve is private. There's no reserves. It's not even a bank, really. It's just a cartel, okay, of these crooks or criminals, agreement amongst themselves to come together to rip you off and enslave you. So you don't want to be a slave? You don't want be paying for your own destruction, paying the banks and their deep state, you can do that. But it takes a little effort. I put it all together for you, but I cannot do it for you. You have to take a little time as you drive around town, to and from work and errands, listen to videos of Freedom Law School, and then when you get to lunch or dinner, then you can go ahead and watch the videos. But guess what? I just put together a 12-page brochure that explains it all in a short hurry. I'm going to go with a little bit of that with you right now. I'm proud of it. I'm going to put it on step 1, front page of our step 7 steps to have to be free of the IRS. You're going to download that. We're going to mail them to you for free to pass out to your friends. So here's a preview of this brochure, okay? This is Ed Griffin's speech. I forgot to tell you guys online about Federal Reserve. A very good one out there. You ought to check it out. Here it is. It's called Restore Freedom. Follow the law. Regain your power and freedom. Stop voluntarily paying the Washington, D.C. swamp legally and safely guarantee. Stop paying for your own destruction by paying these crooks money you never owed in the first place. We the people are in charge. That's what the Founding Fathers put out in the Constitution. Because it is our government. We are in charge. They work for us. And I will show you in this brochure how you can pay no income or payroll taxes by following the U.S. government's official legal websites, and that you were deceived into reporting and paying income tax you never owed in the first place. And the deception lies in certain key terms defined differently than those in the dictionary. I think we got the wrong version on here. Can you help me get the right version that's highlightable? This is not by highlightable. Okay? All right, yeah, that's the wrong version I got here. I don't know what happened here. So, anyhow, this U.S. individual, folks, you see on the 1040 form, is not a 50 states individual. Okay? He or she is really a District of Columbia individual. It should be really called a D.C. individual income tax return, okay? So in the following pages now, you will see legal definitions of certain key terms in the federal tax laws as interpreted by the U.S. Supreme Court, and these definitions were all hidden in plain sight in the law books. Those people who are required to file an IRS 1040 form are citizens and residents of Washington, D.C., not the people of the 50 states. So with that introduction, I'm going to go over the whole thing for you, which, by the way, this summarizes our 5 videos in one presentation. Here we go. Okay? So let's see what we got here. The IRS 1040 income tax form and instructions and U.S. Treasury regulations clearly state that citizens and residents of the United States are required to file a 1040 income tax form and pay federal income tax. However, they do not define the term United States. Okay? The IRS lets you assume that as a U.S. citizen and a citizen of one of the 50 states, you are required to be a slave of the U.S. government and file and pay income tax. There it is. 1040 form instructions on page 8 tells you these rules apply to all U.S. citizens, and I agree that is a correct statement of the law. And here the Code of Federal Regulations, the U.S. Treasury regulations. What did I say also? 1.1-1, that the Section 1 of the Code imposes an income tax on the income of every individual who is a citizen or resident of the United States. Continues, in general, all citizens of the United States, okay, they got to pay income tax. So we go and see this term United States again and again, but it's not defined anywhere. Well, let's go to the website of the United States Office of Law Revision Council of the House of Representatives at uscode.house.gov. And here it is. In Title 26, or Category 26 of federal laws, commonly called the Internal Revenue Code, IRC, Section 7701A 9 and 10, definitions of the term United States and state only include the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. Yep. This shows that the only citizens and residents are District of Columbia residents who are required to file and pay on the IRS 1040 form. None of the 50 states or any U.S. territory like Puerto Rico are included in the definition of the term United States or state. You see it there? Nope. No California, no Florida, no Texas, right? By contrast, you see below, Section 4612 of the Internal Revenue Code, tax on petroleum or oil, specifically includes the 50 states and all U.S. territories, possessions, continental shelf areas, and foreign trade zones. Any crude oil received at a refinery or petroleum products come into those areas must pay the tax. Here it is. Title 26, Tax on Petroleum. For the purposes of this subchapter, Tax on Petroleum, look at the term United States includes. It means the 50 states and a bunch of other territories and continental shelf areas and foreign trade zones. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you one more definition, which is going to make it very easy for you to see. These definitions are unique, and Congress intended for them to be unique from each other. You only read in the laws definitions what's only there. Okay? We're going to talk about Federal Insurance Contributions Act, or FICA taxes, commonly called Social Security taxes that come out of your employees' paychecks, right? However, only wage earners in the 4 U.S. island territories listed below are subject to those withholding surprise, as you will see the term United States defined for this FICA chapter. Not only are the 50 states not listed in the definition of United States, but even the District of Columbia, the seat of the federal government, is not included in this definition. Yep, there's the term United States. Therefore, employees in the 50 states should not have to pay. Employers should not steal from their employees to send the IRS this money that they really steal. Look at it. Look at the United States here. For the purpose of this chapter, FICA, Chapter 21, the United States does not include the 50 states or the District of Columbia. And they made you believe that applies to everybody in the 50 states. That's how Satan deceives. Through deception, they make you afraid and make you a slave, and now you can be free if you choose to continue listening and watching, educating yourself. Furthermore, the U.S. Supreme Court has repeatedly stated that when Congress defines a term and excludes what normally may be included in a term's definition, as in the term United States, we have to follow that specific definition, even if it varies or is different from our normal everyday understanding of that term's definition. When it comes to taxes, this rule is much more harsh against the government. There can be no assuming, no implying that a term means anything beyond the specific words used in defining of that term, such as the term United States. If you have any doubt about defining a term in a tax law, you must most strongly conclude that the government does not have the power to tax the person or thing that you think may be taxable. Here it is, Stenberg versus Carhart, your Supreme Court, right? When a statute of law includes explicit definition, we must follow the definition, right? Even if it varies from that term's ordinary meaning, and it is axiomatic, self-evident, obvious that the statutory definition of the term excludes unstated meaning of that term. Here's a unanimous Supreme Court tax case of Gould versus Gould. Tell you what I told you earlier, that in interpretation or understanding of statutes levying taxes, it is the established rule not to extend the provisions by implication beyond the clear import of the language used, or to enlarge their operations so as to embrace or include matters not specifically pointed out. In case of doubt, they are construed most strongly against the government and in favor of the citizen. Okay, now I'm going to take you guys to the next section of the deception of the propaganda of the media and accountants, CPAs, tax attorneys who've been deceived to deceive you. Okay? The Irish accountants, lawyers, and major media deceived the American people into becoming Irish slaves when they say that the 16th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution gave Congress the power to tax income of the people of the 50 states. But the U.S. Supreme Court has clearly stated that the 16th Amendment did not give Congress any new taxing powers. So, since before the 16th Amendment, Congress could not tax the income of the people of the 50 states, Congress does not have the power to tax your income now either. There it is. 16th Amendment conferred no new power of taxation to the federal government. So, if that's the case, how did they scam us? How did they have us pay an income tax? Well, the 16th Amendment did not change anything. You'll see it here. I'll show you the trick. When we hear the term United States, most of us think of the 50 states. However, the U.S. Supreme Court tells us this is not always the case. Here's the case of Hudenberg and Allison versus the tax commissioner of Ohio. The term United States may be used in any one of several senses. It may be merely the name of a sovereign occupying the position, analogous to that of the sovereigns in the family of nations. For example, compare us to Russia, China, France, Egypt, right? The second one is what they use in tax laws. It may designate the territory over which the sovereignty of the United States extends. Also, there's a third definition, which is it may be the collective name of the states which are united by and under the Constitution. Remember, the second one is that the one that they use for tax purposes. Look at, for example, here on citizenship. For citizenship purposes, we are all citizens of our states, as well as citizens of the collective United States. Here's the definition of U.S. for nationality and immigration purposes. Okay? In Title 8, Section 101, A38, the term United States. Okay? Wow, look at that. Means the continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Guam, and the Virgin Islands of the United States. So, we're all U.S. and state citizens, but not for tax purposes. But to use the term in the U.S., you think, oh, it's me. I'm the one that got to pay income tax. That's how they tricked us, people. Okay? Now, this is going to get interesting. So, however, for income, payroll, corporate, wagering, and estate tax purposes, the term United States refers only to Washington, D.C., and or other federal lands. They made you believe that these taxes apply to you by using the term United States in these tax laws, when these tax laws never did apply to you or any of the people of the 50 states. So in 1901, the U.S. Supreme Court stated that the federal government may tax people and things in federal lands and territories in ways that would not be allowed in the 48, now 50 United States. That's right. And that's how they got the scam going. Here's Down versus Bidwell, a 1901 U.S. Supreme Court case, says this in summary. This is a summary made by Wikipedia, which is a good summary, by the way, because it's a convoluted, long case. The Constitution does not necessarily apply to territories of the United States government. Instead, Congress has jurisdiction to create law within territories in certain circumstances, particularly those dealing with revenue, taxes, which would not be allowed by the Constitution for the U.S. states. How do you like that? See? The income tax would not be allowed in the 50 states because direct taxes still must be apportioned or divided up amongst the states. But with Washington, D.C., federal territories and lands, they can do what they want. That's how they deceived us. So, bottom line is that the federal tax laws have been written constitutionally correct. However, the federal government, deep state, along with their mainstream newspapers and radio and TV stations, deceived us to believe that the people of the 50 states are slaves of the federal government and must sign 1040 income tax confession forms for our master, the IRS, and pay portion of our hard-earned money to our slave master, the IRS. It really steals. Yep. That is why in 1913, when the first modern income tax law was written by Congress, the term United States and state explicitly included only Washington, D.C. and U.S. territories, not any of the 48, now 50 states. Look at this. In 1913, the term state in the United States included only D.C. and territories. Look at that. That the word state of the United States, when used in this section, right, shall be construed to include any territory, Alaska, the District of Columbia, Puerto Rico, and Philippines. Yeah. And in 1954, the definition of the United States included only D.C. and U.S. territories. That's right. In 1771 section, goes way back then. At that time, the term United States and states include only territories of Alaska and Hawaii and the District of Columbia. Okay? Now, they took Alaska out, but on July 12, 1960, when the territory of Hawaii was taken out of the definition of the term United States, after Alaska had come out also, in Section 7701 of the Internal Revenue Code, IRC, federal tax laws, where the term United States and tax laws was defined. The laws were backdated to August 21st, 1959, almost a year before the law was changed. Why? Because on August 21st, 1959, Hawaii became the 50th U.S. state. Since Hawaii was no longer a federal territory, the people of Hawaii could no longer be taxed on their income. The same had been done for Alaska after it became the 49th state in 1959. Boom. You see it for yourself. They took out the territory of Hawaii, okay, and made the law backdated to 1959, August 21st. So, here it is, folks. It's now up to you to decide, stop being a slave you were never meant to be. And how do you do that? How do you stop being a slave? Right? Of the Federal Reserve, these crooked banksters. For over 100 years, they ripped you and your parents and grandparents, making you believe you got to be slave of these banks. Okay? The answer is actually pretty simple. Okay? What you want to do is to go to freedomlawschool.org and take the 7 steps to free yourself of IRS deception and fear, which leads to you being a slave of the IRS, and allows the IRS to take your hard-earned money while you put the rope of 10 for income tax confession form around your neck. So 7 steps are there. Okay. So by the way, I'm going to briefly mention to you the second step is key. I just gave you the first step in a summary, but you should know that when you sign the IRS Form 1040 income tax confession trap form, you state under oath that you owe the IRS money. And by doing so, you are putting the IRS noose around your neck. That's right. This is the truth that was not told to you by your accountant, by your CPA, enrolled agent, or tax attorney even, okay? So look at the form. Don't believe me. Look at this 1048 form signature line. It says sign here in big print. By tiny print. What does that say? Sign under penalties of perjury. What does that mean? Under penalties of perjury mean throw me in prison if everything on this form is not true, correct, and complete. That your accountant, CPA, enrolled agent, tax attorney, he or she filled it out, but you end up with the money and you end up going to prison. You confess under oath about all this. Right there on line 37, you see amount you owe. Also, you put that amount and you sign that you owe that amount to the IRS. So this is how you give the IRS the power to audit you, empty your bank account, steal your property, and put you in prison. It was all done by you. Unwittingly, they deceived you to hang yourself, give the rope to the IRS. That's why you're afraid of the IRS. When they got you to put the rope around your neck and give it to the IRS and enslave yourself, imagine that. What a good psych job they did on all of us. But good news is, you can stop. That's right. I stopped over 30 years ago. Haven't filed and paid. They're into prison. They know me very well. I've been on the criminal investigation and other investigations by the IRS for over 30 years. Now in prison, I beat them. None of my students also have gone to prison who came to me clean like you and stop filing and paying income tax clean with Freedom Law School first. None of the bank account be taken. The paycheck not levied. No property will be stolen by the IRS, home or businesses. And you can be free if you choose to. It's all in your hands. I love you all, and I want you to be free, but I cannot make that decision. You have to make the decision to be free. No longer a slave. No longer paying for your own destruction to enemies in the deep state and banks, to the crooks and criminals who are covered up for the Epstein files. Right? Those pedophiles, the crooks, they don't want the names released. Right? So the way to do that is, again, by going to our website, freedomlawschool.org. No law requires 99% of Americans to file and pay income and payroll taxes. It's all there on our website. You don't need to be afraid of them. You can be free, okay? So just go to freedomlawschool.org and make it happen, okay? So with that, brothers and sisters, I wish you all the very best, because I came to America from Iran in 1977 to live in a free country. I found that, whoa, look at this. America's not free. Like advertising on television, what's wrong here? Something's wrong. I got to figure it out. So I learned from all the good patriots in the early 1990s what's going on. And I did my own research and reading. I found out, oh my gosh, we are a free nation. We just were duped into believing that we have to be slaves. We're not slaves of the federal government. So with that, I'll give you all my love, and I give you all the education that I've gathered for over 30 years. But you got to be on your drive to and from work. Listen to our videos at freedomlawschool.org, okay? Go to step 1, okay? Start there on our videos. Watch the videos, step 1, step 2, all of them are there. And as you drive around, you're going to say, now I know how that works. Okay. I understand. I know what's happening. I can be free. There's 80 million non-filers out there based upon IRS's best estimates. They can't get us all. They cannot get Paymon, the president of Freedom Law School. Me, I'm much smaller than him, the target than the IRS. So we can get together, even be more powerful. So with that, I give you my wisdom, my knowledge, my love for each of you, and invite you to help yourself be free and share this information on your social media, on YouTube, Facebook, X, every place out there. Put our videos out there. Put our message out there. Put our website out there. Let your family, friends, anybody you love and care about, give them the chance to be free. If you don't tell them about us, they may never hear about Freedom Law School and never be free. But you loving them will make that possible for them. So with that, thank you for watching me and hoping to meet you all someday very soon in person.